Have you ever felt like the world just woke up? Like after a long, quiet night, suddenly the lights flick on, and there are new ideas, incredible art, and inventions that change everything? Well, that's pretty much what happened during a period in history we call the Renaissance. So let's dive into this incredible reawakening. Here is what we're going to cover. We'll start with how the world was reborn, then meet some of the absolute titans of the Renaissance. After that, we'll check out the inventions that changed the game, understand a whole new way of thinking, and finally, see why the Renaissance legacy is still so important today. All right, so to really get what the Renaissance was all about, we first have to look at what came before it. Think of it like one of those massive before and after pictures for all of Europe. On one side, you've got the Middle Ages. For about 1,000 years, life was often really tough, marked by war and hardship. A lot of ancient wisdom was just lost. But then something started to shift. The Renaissance began, and it was like a new dawn. People became unbelievably curious, just hungry to learn, to create, and to see their world in a totally new light. So what does the word Renaissance actually mean? Well, it literally means rebirth, and that's the perfect way to describe it. It was a time when Europeans rediscovered the brilliant art, science, and philosophy from ancient Greece and Rome. They took all that lost knowledge and used it as a spark to light up their own world. And you can see on this map where it all kicked off. This whole thing started in Italy, with amazing cities like Florence and Rome just bursting with creativity. From there, these revolutionary ideas spread like wildfire all across Europe, transforming countries like France, Spain, and England. Now, this incredible era wasn't just something that happened. It was driven by real people, absolute geniuses that we still talk about constantly today. To really get the spirit of the age, let's zoom in on a couple of titans who are the perfect embodiment of it all. And if you had to pick just one person to represent the entire period, it would have to be Leonardo da Vinci. He was the ultimate Renaissance man, a term we still use today for someone who is a genius in a ton of different fields. I mean, just look at the incredible range of his talent. On the left, you've got the Mona Lisa, probably the most famous painting in the world. And on the right, that's his design for an early helicopter, something that was centuries ahead of its time. He was an artist, an inventor, and a scientist all rolled into one. Just amazing. Next up, we have another giant, Galileo Galilei. So if Leonardo was the ultimate artist-inventor, Galileo was the courageous scientist who dared to look up at the stars and question everything people thought they knew for a fact. So in 1609, Galileo got his hands on a telescope and made it way better, 20 times more powerful. And when he pointed it at the sky, what he saw gave him proof for a mind-blowing idea. The Earth actually revolves around the sun, not the other way around. Now, you have to understand this discovery was a huge problem at the time. The established church taught that the Earth was the center of everything. By challenging that, Galileo was accused of heresy, which is basically the crime of believing something that goes against the official religious rules. And the punishment for his scientific bravery? It was severe. Galileo was sentenced to house arrest, which meant he was forbidden from leaving his home for the rest of his life. That's a pretty steep price to pay for telling the truth about our place in the universe. Galileo's story is the perfect example of how a single piece of technology, the telescope, could totally change our understanding of everything. And he wasn't alone. The Renaissance was absolutely fueled by groundbreaking inventions that just kept speeding up the pace of change. Okay, if there is one date you need to remember from all this, it's 1456. That's the year Johannes Gutenberg invented the printing press. Before this, every single book had to be copied by hand, which made them super rare and crazy expensive. But suddenly, with the printing press, books and ideas could be mass-produced, spreading knowledge faster and farther than ever before. It was a total game changer. And the innovation did not stop there. This period saw an explosion of new tech. You can see on this timeline, gunpowder from China changed warfare, the Caravel ship opened up the oceans for exploration, and inventions like the microscope and telescope revealed whole new worlds, both incredibly tiny and unimaginably vast. And hey, even the match was invented. Each new thing kind of built on the last, pushing humanity forward. But here's the thing. The Renaissance wasn't just about new gadgets and discoveries. The most important change was happening inside people's minds. It was a whole new way of thinking about themselves and their place in the universe. They were literally rewriting the rules of society. So first there was secularism. Now, this doesn't mean people suddenly stopped being religious. It just meant they started to think that life here on Earth was important and worth focusing on, not just as a waiting room for the afterlife. Art, science, and just daily life became valuable for their own sake. And that idea flowed right into humanism. This was a powerful belief that human beings are pretty incredible, capable of amazing learning, creativity, and achievement. It basically put humanity at the center of the story and celebrated all of our potential. And that led straight to individualism, the idea that you, as a person, are unique and important, that your own personal thoughts, your talents, and your feelings matter and are worth expressing. I mean, think back to Leonardo da Vinci. He wasn't just some anonymous craftsman. He was celebrated as an individual genius. That was a brand new way of thinking. And finally, the engine that drove all of this was skepticism. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean it in the sense of being curious, of asking why, and of challenging old ideas. Instead of just blindly accepting what authorities told them, people like Galileo started testing things for themselves. And that right there, that's the foundation of modern science. Now, it's really important to know that the European Renaissance didn't just pop up out of nowhere. For centuries before it, the Arab world had its own golden age of science. They made incredible advances in math, physics, and astronomy. And a lot of that knowledge eventually made its way to Europe, helping to spark the whole Renaissance. So we've seen the rebirth, we've met the titans, and we've understood these big new ideas. But what does a historical period from 500 years ago have to do with us, right here, right now? Why does any of this still matter? The answer is pretty much everything. The spirit of the Renaissance is woven into the fabric of our modern world. It gave us the foundation for modern science. It championed the idea that individual creativity is something precious. Really, the core message of the Renaissance is timeless. Be curious, question the world around you, and celebrate what we as humans are capable of achieving. And I'll just leave you with this one last thought to chew on. The great rebirth of the Renaissance was powered by a revolutionary technology for sharing information, the printing press. So my question for you is, what invention is powering our rebirth of ideas today? What is our printing press?